Hi everyone. If you want to play better online chess, then you're in the right place. And indeed, if you want to play better chess in general, then this two-part video series is so important for you to watch and absorb and watch back if you need to, because what I want to cover in the next two videos is really at the heart of playing good chess. If you can absorb these principles, then it will hugely improve your chess understanding and you'll see a dramatic difference in your results as you go forward. In these two videos, we're going to focus on the fundamental question of what is a plan and how can I create one in my chess games. And the reason this is so important is that chess, like so many other aspects of life, needs to be approached with a plan in mind, because when you have a plan, you have an overall vision of what you're trying to achieve. And so when you're then faced with forks in the road or smaller decisions that need to be made at the board, you can fall back on your overarching plan to help guide you through that decision making process. So if we start with the basics here of what is a plan, there's a very nice definition given by Harry Gollenbeck in his Encyclopedia of Chess, and this is something that Jeremy Silman quotes in his book How to Reassess Your Chess, which is where much of the inspiration for this channel comes from. And Harry Gollenbeck says, planning is the process by which a player utilizes the advantages and minimizes the drawbacks of his position. In order to promise success, planning is thus always based on a diagnosis of the existing characteristics of a position. It is therefore most difficult when the position is evenly balanced, and easiest when there is only one plan to satisfy the demands of the position. And it's at this point that Jeremy Silman goes on to say, to define the word plan does not necessarily mean that we know how to create one in an actual game. As Gollenbeck said, this calls for the ability to recognize the existing characteristics of a position. To successfully penetrate into the mysteries of the chessboard, you have to be aware of the magic word of chess, imbalance. An imbalance in chess denotes any difference in the two respective positions. To think that the purpose of chess is solely to checkmate the opposing king is much too simplistic. The real goal of a chess game is to create an imbalance and try to build a situation in which it is favourable for you. An understanding of this statement shows that an imbalance is not necessarily an advantage. It is simply a difference. It is the player's responsibility to turn that difference into an advantage. So once we understand that planning is the process by which a player utilizes the advantages and minimizes the drawbacks of his position, and that the way in which we spot those advantages and drawbacks is by looking for imbalances in the position, then the next logical question is, what are the different imbalances that we should be looking for in the position? So that's going to be the focus of the second half of this video. We'll look at a breakdown of the 7 different imbalances that you can get in any given chess position. And then in the second part of this video series, we'll take a look at a key thinking technique that will allow you to take the recognition of those imbalances and turn it into an actionable plan on the board. So as I'm talking through these 7 imbalances, I'd recommend you take a look at the position on screen and think about how they apply here, especially because in the next video we'll then be layering on the 5-step thinking technique, which will allow you to take the recognition of those imbalances and bring them to life into an actionable plan. So the first imbalance to think about in any given position is, does either side have a superior minor piece or pieces? And this is referring here to the interplay between bishops and knights. The second imbalance to look out for in any position is pawn structure. This is a broad subject, but roughly speaking, we're thinking about things such as doubled pawns, isolated pawns, and so on. The third imbalance that we need to consider is space. So who does and doesn't have space, and where do they have that space or not, as the case may be. The fourth imbalance to look out for is material. So who owns the greater value pieces in a position? Is material level? Is it not? The fifth imbalance is control of a key file or square. So files and diagonals act as pathways for your pieces, while squares act as homes. The sixth imbalance to look at is lead in development. So does any one player have more force in a specific area of the board? And the seventh imbalance to look out for in any position is initiative, and this is all about who is dictating the tempo of the game. Now I do want to do some separate videos on each of these imbalances, diving in a bit deeper on where we can see positions that have such imbalances as these and how players came up with a plan off the back of those. But for the purpose of this video, that's a run through of those 7 imbalances and in the next we'll then look at the thinking technique, which will allow us to not only recognize them in the position, but then take those advantages and drawbacks of our position and turn them into an actionable plan that we can use in our games. So to recap on what we've covered in this video, we've talked about the fact that a plan is a process by which a player utilizes the advantages and minimizes the drawbacks of his position. We've also then covered the importance of looking for imbalances in the position in order to then devise a plan, and covered off what those 7 imbalances are. And finally, we've discussed the fact that if you're going to take these imbalances in the position and turn them into an actionable plan, you need to apply a 5-step critical thinking technique, and that's the piece that we'll be covering in the next video. So I hope you can join me for that one. If you have any questions on this, please do drop them down below. If you're new to the channel, then do hit that subscribe button. Thanks very much for watching, and hope to see you on the next video.